Hey, this is Matt. Once again, we're about to the videos of the paid request. This time for Brian. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for top 10 favorite X-Men villains. Now, this was a bit hard to do because I remember reading a couple issues of X-Men back in the day, but not a whole lot. Number one, that would have been for like 20 years ago, so I would remember very little of them. Number two, if I did read comics back in the day, they were maybe some Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, Punisher, some offshoots like Preacher, among other stuff. But I didn't read a whole lot of X-Men comics. Now, I did watch X-Men the animated series, and of course watch some of the movies. So mainly it would be based on those, and particularly the cartoon from the 90s. And some of these villains is because of stuff they were in other comics. Like number one of the reasons he's number one is because of an issue he had with Spider-Man, which I'll get to. But I did make a list. Number 10, I put Omega Red. I definitely remember him from the cartoon. I love his look. He's from Russia. He was an experiment done. He has these retractable tendril-like coils. That was the Soviets' attempt as adamantium. He'll like take your life force with it. So he'll like these tendrils are control and whip around. Kind of like Doc Ock from Spider-Man. In the cartoon, he had a history with Wolverine. Just this unique look. And the fact that he was from the Soviet Union, so they gave him a little bit of a different accent, personality because of that. Definitely made, along with his look, stick out in a positive manner. So I definitely had to put him on the list. Number 9, I put Mystique, and particularly because of the early X-Men films, Rebecca Romijn, which was Rebecca Romijn Stamos at the time. Just how beautiful she looked and how sexy she looked, alluring, tempting, seductive, but at the same time because she could look like anybody, so she could be such a great spy, pretend to be whoever, whether it be in the fight against Wolverine in the first X-Men movie, how agile she is, she do these flips and kicks, and pretend to be Wolverine and all these other characters. Definitely seemed like a formidable villain. How she could really twist your head around and confuse you. But again, she was also very agile. She was very flexible. And of course, her look with Rebecca Romijn Stamos. I mean, come on. Very, very sexy look, even in blue. So, and good makeup effects too. So that definitely put her up on the list for me. Number 8, which I'm sure most people would have this in their top 5, but for me, I have at number 8, Dark Phoenix. And yeah, I'm sure most people have this in the top 5 because it's such a important piece of X-Men lore, where the Phoenix took over Jean Grey, took over her mind. She became much more dangerous. I do remember her arc in the X-Men cartoon. Of course, it was also in X-Men 3, The Last Stand, and then they tried to do that awful movie called Dark Phoenix. But I think it just is because of the story. I think because as a villain, it only lasted a certain amount of time because it was a certain arc. So it's not this villain that would last for years and years and years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if those who are very knowledgeable on X-Men comics, did the Dark Phoenix come back time and time again? Or it was just that one time? Because all I remember is that one time it was in the comics and then they adapted it for the cartoon and stuff. But at the same time, it's a very important event. That's why it gets repeated. Again, the movie, then they reboot the movies, they put it in there. Taking one of your essential X-Men and possessing them, controlling them. You should have this ultimate power and the great visual of her, but they have this fiery phoenix around her. It's a great visual to parlay into comics and film or in animation. Definitely makes it noteworthy and very important. It does seem like she sacrifices her life. Of course, Wolverine and Scott Summers both like her, so it definitely affects that love triangle thing as an important part of the story. So it definitely deserves to be on the list. Number 7, the Sentinels. Not only for how important they were in the Days of Future Past, where they were the ones taking out all of the mutants. You see how tall, big, powerful, blasting from their palms, how much of a threat they are. Definitely remember their look in the cartoon. I mean, you even see them in the opening intro, where it's like, I think, Rogue flipping them and destroying them. Just for how there could be so many, and so when it's in so many numbers, how powerful they are, but just how unrelenting they are and won't stop. And it's always satisfying when someone like Wolverine cuts their head off or something to that effect. Which was fun to see in the X-Men 97, the first episode, when they demolish a bunch of the Sentinels. That was a cool scene. Definitely needs to be on the list. Number 6, I put this guy because I think just the whole idea of him is interesting to me and would like to have seen him used more. Sauron. Just the idea of a talking pterodactyl that's also an energy vampire, kind of like Life Force. This is a vampire that takes your energy from you, your life force. So I didn't imagine like a pterodactyl, but it's like Life Force. That's an interesting combination to me. I mean, if you try to do that in a movie, people I think will laugh at it, but I admit, part of me would want to see the attempt, but it'd be like a bunch of CGI and stuff. But if you actually try to attempt to a practical, it may still be laughable, but man, it would be interesting to see. I was on the cartoon, but a very limited amount of time. But I don't know, just I know people are like, well, how do you have it so high? Like I said, the concept, the idea, just very intriguing to me. That I would like to have seen more done with that character, with that villain. Whether in different fight scenes or just it being a terror in a city, going from building to building, taking people's life force and getting away, and that's just me though. Number 5, Apocalypse. That's mainly from the cartoon. The way he looks at his voice. He has such a commanding, strong voice that you see why people would follow this guy. On the evil side, of course. My name is Apocalypse. Which they did such a crap job when they tried to do the movie Apocalypse, because he looked like Ivan Ooze. And Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie seemed more intimidating than this guy. But the cartoon, again, the way that he's designed, the color scheme they use in the cartoon, well, it seemed like more blue, but when they did the movie, it seemed more purple. And how he commanded the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and Archangel, and how he just seemed like such a major threat. Like, almost to the point he could have been Thanos. For, like, the Thanos of X-Men would be Apocalypse. Like, that's how big and powerful and important he felt like in that X-Men cartoon. Very memorable piece of that cartoon. So definitely put Apocalypse on there. Again, I think they had the right voice for him as well. Number 4, put Sabretooth. The Yang to Wolverine's Yin. Of the Yin Yang trial. Just how dangerous and sinister, and how just always going up against Wolverine. They put him in movies, but it's like it was Tyler Mane in the first one, which I think had a nice look to him. Like, he felt like a big, powerful figure. Just they gave him really nothing in terms of dialogue, in terms of a character. And then X-Men Orange is Wolverine, Lee Schreiber, I thought, was a better actor, gave much more of a character, but they didn't really give him much, to work with in terms of look, build, etc. And then they didn't really get a big one-on-one fight. At least nothing that was really that satisfying, or as far as satisfying as it could have been. But I definitely remember him being a good foil for Wolverine on the X-Men cartoon. Definitely quite a few episodes where they have their back and forths and fights with each other. Definitely an essential villain that had to be on the list. Had to put Sabretooth on the list. Number 3, I put Mr. Sinister. I love the look of Mr. Sinister. I think they did an excellent job designing with the black outfit and the white face and all this stuff. That fits the name. When you hear the name Mr. Sinister and you look at the way he's dressed, it just fits perfectly. And then I always remember him in the cartoon where he was just so much of a manipulator. He seemed like such a dick as well. And was it Ford? Morph. The way he would control Morph on that cartoon and manipulate him and twist his head around, his memories around, to have him go up against the X-Men. I remember that was like one of the more emotional arcs, especially for Wolverine. Because Wolverine was such good friends with Morph and wanted to get him back. And I remember the cartoon, but I don't think I ever saw the final episode. Because I know at one point Morph seemed like he was okay, but then he left the X-Men. But I never knew he came back. And then I heard that he did come back in the final episode, which I didn't know about that. I don't even think that cartoon's ever been released on Blu-ray. Like a full set. And on DVD it was like Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. So, that's weird. Like, let's do an X-Men 97 cartoon. Which I don't know if it's even doing well. Although I did like the first episode, but let's not put the show out on a... Unless it is and I don't know about it. But anyway, Mr. Sinister, I say just his look and the voice actor. I forget who voiced him on the cartoon. I'd have to find it. But I thought they really picked a fitting voice for that character. But yeah, Mr. Sinister... I mean, look at that. Like, look at that. That's a pretty cool look. Like, look at that, man. That's what I mean by that. Like, that just... I do think look is important. I mean, yes, there's a lot more to it in terms of... Can they pull it off? Or are they just a... So it's... Oh, wow. Clancy Brown voiced him in Wolverine the X-Men. Christopher Britton voiced him on the 90s show. Christopher Britton. What else has he done? I'm curious. Oh, he was the voice of the drive-through televoice in Maximum Overdrive. Wow. Humans here. Humans here. I guess he was in Death Note. Okay. He did voices for Stargate Atlantis, English dub of Death Note, Iron Man Armored Adventures. Like, oh, I guess he came back from Mr. Sinister in the new show. Male narration in Dino Crisis 2. So, but yeah, he did a good job. So I just wanted to give credit to him. Yeah, especially on the show. Like, look at that. I don't know, just that character just really stood out to me. It just fit that moniker to a T. Number two, I put Magneto. I'm sure most people put him as number one. I mean, he has the closest relationship to the X-Men because of Charles Xavier, the two of them being such good friends back in the day, but then they have very different thoughts on mutants, on humans, I should say. Charles Xavier thinks we could live together. Magneto, because of him growing up in a concentration camp and the history of his family, he knows about, the racism and all that stuff. He's like, no, we're better than them. We should be ruling them. Otherwise, they're going to wipe us out. So, fear. Let's use fear against them. Which, if you understand his point of view, but you also know it's the wrong thing at the end of the day. And of course, because of his power of magnetism, it's actually a pretty important power. Like, the way it could just completely take Wolverine and throw him around, or rip the adamantium out of his body, which happened in one of the comics. And just how powerful he can be because of how much things are made of metal. That, in the right frame of mind, he could be almost unstoppable. And Ian McKellen played him very well in the first couple X-Men movies. I like the way he was voiced in the 90s cartoon. The look with the helmet is a good costume. Definitely a memorable villain. The one I put number one is strictly because of just how physically empowering he is. And that's the Juggernaut. I couldn't help it. I was going to put Magneto as number one, but the Juggernaut, and it's not just for, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. But just the way he looked with that dome on his head and the outfit, how big and massive and just completely impenetrable and unstoppable he can become. When he's used, you really expect some really, hopefully, exciting action and spectacle. Does he throw everything at him and do whatever, but he'll just keep on coming, the unstoppable force. And to be fair, the reason I put it as number one is not because of an X-Men comic, it's because of a Spider-Man comic. So technically, I should probably save this for top 10 favorite Spider-Man villains, but because he's mainly an X-Men villain, I figure I would put him in here. Plus, I really liked what they did with him in the 90s cartoon. But I always remember the Spider-Man comic where Spider-Man's got to get this stuff for his Aunt May. But here's a Juggernaut that just won't stop. He's not going after Spider-Man, but he just won't stop, and Spider-Man's like throwing everything at him. He's driving trucks into him, gas stations are exploding. He's just doing whatever he can. Can nothing stop the Juggernaut? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the comic where that famous bit where all this stuff's on him and he's pushing up because he's like, Aunt May is counting on me, all this stuff. So he pushes it out, and you see that determination, you see that no-quit attitude from Spider-Man. And then does whatever he can to try to stop the Juggernaut. That was always such a great definitive moment for Spider-Man that it got stuck in my head. And of course, then it relates to the Juggernaut, because that was the villain he was going up against. Now, they try to have an X-Men 3 with Vinnie Jones, which I will admit I got a chuckle out of him saying, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch, which was a meme online before that. Just someone had taken in, like, put lines of dialogue into it. But I mean, it did make me laugh. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. It did make me laugh. It made me laugh when I first saw it on the internet, and it did make me laugh when I saw it in the movie. Granted, I don't know if Vinnie Jones was like it's not the best portrayal of Juggernaut. And of course, they had him in, I think, Deadpool 2. I think it was Deadpool 2 they had him in it. Or was it Deadpool 1? I think it was Deadpool 2. Yeah, because he was in the prison, and then I thought that was kind of cool that they brought back Juggernaut in that. But yeah, I had to put the Juggernaut in there just for how much of an unstoppable force he is. I do like his costume, and again, I like the voice work. I was a lot of it go back also to that '90s cartoon that I keep repeating over and over again. That was just prominent. And of course, you have a little bit of personal connection because I think he was the stepbrother of Charles Xavier, so you still have a little bit of that connection that I thought worked well off of in the '90s cartoon. Kane Marco. So definitely got to put him as number one. Magneto number two, Mr. Sinister number three, Sabretooth number four, Apocalypse number five, Sauron number six, Sentinels number seven, Dark Phoenix number eight, Mystique number nine, and Omega Red number 10. It'd be cool if some of these villains were in the Deadpool Wolverine movie, but highly doubt it. I mean, they already did Juggernaut. They're not doing, it is what it is. But with that said, thanks for watching. Thanks once again, Brian, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye for now.